Hey everybody. I hope that you guys can hear me. I'm testing out equipment tonight because I want to make sure that we can go live tomorrow night. I think a lot of you heard my different podcasts. I sent out the same exact episode to all the podcasts that you see on the screen as far as West Virginia Overtime, Paranormal Review, and Wrestling Overtime. I wanted to make sure that I only basically had to say things just once and make sure that you guys knew exactly what was going on. So, what I'm doing is just kind of playing with equipment and seeing what looks best, what I like, and some of the features that are going on. And then I want to make sure that it is going out to all the different sites that I wanted to go out to, and that I make sure what is actually what, so that I don't look like a complete newbie to you guys when I actually go live. So, for those of you who haven't listened to the podcast episode, that's right. I do have three different podcasts. All of them have Twitter sites, all of them have emails, and all of them have Facebook pages. So right now, I am broadcasting on hopefully West Virginia Overtime's Facebook page. But when I am doing a wrestling show, it will be on Wrestling Overtime's Facebook page. And when we're going over a paranormal review of a show or of a location, then it will be on Paranormal Reviews page. For those of you who didn't know that I had three different podcasts, then feel free to join those pages, look at those pages, or look at them on Twitter, or listen to those podcasts. We're up on all major platforms, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. I personally use Pocket Cast. We're up on all of those, and you can listen to back episodes. Wrestling Overtime, of course, has the most episodes because wrestling right now is the one that is doing the most live shows. And I'll be the first one to admit that I've been getting a little behind on some of the paranormal activities that have been going on. Like I explained in the podcast, got a little upset that, you know, sports were canceled and the actual, um, it seems like that we didn't have any sports and therefore we couldn't continue. For those of you who know me, know that I am a extreme sports fanatic and that I am totally into anything and everything to do with sports. Well, except for hockey or not real big in golf. Although one of my friends told me that I need to start watching, I believe his name is either Wesley Blake or Wesley Benson. He's a YouTube guy that I got sent some videos on that does a lot of different trick shots, and he's actually playing in the golf tournament this weekend, and they're hoping that he can place in the top 20 and can kind of continue on the tour. So some things that I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about was that wanted to make sure that all of you knew that I have started writing on medium.com. You're going to be seeing wrestling articles on there, such as the article that I posted a couple months ago on Cody. Um, you're going to see West Virginia overtime articles based on coaching, and hopefully when sports come back, on some of the West Virginia sports happenings that are going on over there. One of the articles that is on medium.com is 5 different basketball shooting myths that a lot of parents or a lot of coaches believe that aren't really true. As far as paranormal review, some of the articles that are over on medium.com are the articles that were on ghost hunters, where I broke them down. There was part one and a part two talking about the history of ghost hunters and kind of what happened between Jason and Grant. And hoping to continue to do them and add additional articles. I think some of you saw the article that I wrote about Disneyland in Shanghai being opened up back in, I guess it was February or March. So you will continue to see that. I am also writing now for American Betting Experts. .com. You can look up that website and get all of my latest picks on NASCAR. Maybe doing a live on NASCAR probably tomorrow, maybe Saturday sometime, talking a little bit about what the article talks about there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend, running the Brickyard 400 on Sunday, and it's an NBC event. Saturday's race, the Xfinity race, is going to be ran on the Indianapolis road course. So that's going to be an interesting event. And so may do a live, seeing what I can do, what I can't do, and everything on it. But wanted to, like I said, kind of play with some things and tell you about different things that are coming up and what you can expect. So I'm going to start off with wrestling overtime. And let's see if I can get that up there. Yes, tomorrow night. Still not 100% sure on the time. I will try to get that nailed down and send it out to you guys. I don't want to do it during SmackDown, which is 8 to 10, but I know that it replays on the West Coast. So it may be a little later tomorrow night, maybe 11, 12 o'clock, before we talk the state of WWE. Like I said on the podcast, want to go through the first 6 months of 2020, how they've handled COVID-19 and the firing of Paul Heyman and making Bruce Pritchard over the whole Raw and SmackDown, and what has happened in the last 3 weeks. Getting us ready for the pay-per-view that's coming up July 13th or 14th, I believe. Extreme Rules, talking a little bit about that. Hoping on Saturday to do the state of Impact Wrestling. One of the podcast listeners wrote in, I guess it's been almost 2 months ago, and said, hey, you need to check out Impact Wrestling and kind of see what you think of that. I'm going to be real honest with you. My favorite wrestler for them hasn't been on for the last 2 months. I started watching night 2 of Impact Rebellion, and Tessa Blanchard hasn't been on since then. For those of you who have been listening to the Wrestling Overtime podcast, you know that I did a complete podcast episode on Tessa Blanchard, her contract running out, and where she's going to go. I personally think she's going to go to AEW. I still think that, even though Dave Metzler come out today and says it looks like WWE is the front runner for Tessa Blanchard. Looking at the state of AEW, possibly early morning on Saturday night, early morning Sunday, talking a little bit about it. All of these, I'm hoping, will be turned into podcasts so that if you miss the actual live talks, then you guys can always catch up to us. And kind of want to make sure that you know that. As always, you guys can write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com. Now, for those of you that are paranormal review podcast listeners, we're going to be doing some lives on it. I am going to be talking about our first location podcast episode, which is going to be Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum that is here in West Virginia. We're going to be doing some history on it, some of the different stories and findings that they've been doing about it. We're going to talk prices. Hopefully when they're going to be opening it up, we're going to be talking about the Halloween events that they're going to be offering and different things like that. So if you are interested in Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, make sure that you are checking out when this live talk is, and maybe you can give me some stories or some topics that you actually want to see out there about it. For those that have been listening to this podcast, what we're hoping to do is to do one show episode where do a little less play by play, but more synopsis, more actual review of that particular show, and really kind of get into the actual show, comparing and contrasting different things, different elements. And then wanting to do a location episode. A lot of you have said, I really like you doing the paranormal review shows, but I would like to know about some locations. Yes, I'm starting with Trans-Allegheny, and I know it's been wore out, and I'm going to get yelled at by a bunch of different people. Them saying, "Oh, everybody does Trans-Allegheny." Well, I'm hoping to find some other places that maybe one shows went to or no shows that went to, but wanted to start out with something easy and that everybody kind of knew, and hopefully through my research and everything, we'll be able to maybe tell you something new or, get you involved some way, somehow. For those that listen to the West Virginia Overtime, hoping on Saturday night to do a state of West Virginia sports live broadcast and kind of talk about this particular topic. Everybody is really excited about the 3-week practice session that starts. Some counties are starting July 6th, and some aren't starting until a week after, which would be July 13th. So kind of want to do a review of where we stand, what kind of safety factors we've had, do some updates on that. If you follow West Virginia Overtime on Twitter or West Virginia Overtime on Facebook, then you probably saw the article that Rick Ryan wrote about the Sissonville High School assistant coach that now has COVID-19. So that is kind of some of the things that we're going to be talking about some of the research out there. There are two different sides, and I'm going to try to talk a little bit about both sides and not really pick or choose which side I think is right or what we should be doing, but more talk about different options. Of course, that's going to lead us into schools. I'm going to be real honest with you. I think that I am on all of your sides, that I was hoping that today Governor Justice was going to make a decision on what we were going to do with West Virginia schools. Whether or not we were going to have school, if we were going to have school, how were we going to have school? Were we going to go 5 days a week? Were we going to go 4? Were we going to go 3? What exactly? Was there going to be any virtual online component of it? And how was that also going to affect our athletes? One of the things that I definitely want to talk about, and you guys can be thinking about, is the bus issue. As far as you can't social distance on a school bus. There's not 6 feet. Are you going to be taking 6 buses to a football game? And so, going to be talking about those kind of different issues, hopefully on Saturday night, and it's going to be available for our podcast episode. Um, and I want to make sure that I'm doing these lives fairly often. I mean, they're not going to be every single night for every single podcast, but would kind of like to get in a flow of them. Of course, West Virginia overtime. If sports come back in the fall, I want to do a football Friday night one. Now, whether that'll actually be on Friday night, I don't know. We may do something earlier in the week, kind of going over big games, doing any kind of predictions. But we may do something Friday night. I don't want to step on any local shows feet or anything like that. And I want it to be able to continue into the winter. And Basketball Friday night um, is such a great program that I definitely don't want to step on their toes at all because I want to watch them. They get so many coaches calling in, and how that is great. For Paranormal Review, I definitely want to go live after some of the big debuts. Like tonight was the finale of Ghost Adventures, and Zach was opening the Dybbuk box, supposedly, and telling us, what all he found and what he was feeling and all of that. I definitely I want to be able to make sure that I am going live on big shows in the paranormal world. Now, as far as Wrestling Overtime, I want to make sure that I'm going live after the pay per views or before, and us talking about predictions or some outcomes that have happened in the pay per view. And did we expect them? Did we like them? What exactly was going on with them? So look for definitely the big live event to either happen right around Stream Rules, either before or after, and us kind of getting involved and talking to it. So that is basically what I wanted to do tonight, is test equipment, make sure that I could put up banners, that I could make sure that I am broadcasting live on all the different platforms that I want to be broadcasting on. And I definitely wanted to make sure that the sound was okay and the look was okay. Do I like being in front of the camera? No. That's the reason why I liked podcasting. But the thing is, I don't know really what to show and still talk to you guys and be able to carry on a conversation and allow you guys to carry on a conversation together. So that's what I was looking at. Plus, I wanted something where I could put up on the platforms, you guys could watch later and make comments, and I could go back and read them. So that's kind of where we stand. All of you should have the emails for whatever podcast that you have chosen to listen to and how to get in contact with me. But for those of you who don't know or are new, wrestlingovertime@gmail.com. Paranormal Review Pod, that is one word, and it's singular. So paranormal review pod@gmail.com or wvovertime@gmail.com. We want to make sure that we are hearing you and making sure that I'm getting the topics that you want to cover and that you want to hear about. So basically, my tagline is I am working overtime for you. the fan. And so if there's anything that you want me to do research on and do a podcast episode on, whether it is your favorite wrestler, whether it is a school in West Virginia, or whether it's a paranormal site location, or you want me to pick up a certain show or try to find an episode of a certain show and review it for you, then I don't care to do that, but you've got to write me and tell me and let me know what you guys are thinking at the time. So that's kind of all I wanted to do tonight. Looks like from my end of things that we're broadcasting live and going somewhere. So I'm going to get off here and go check Twitch, Periscope, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm trying to think where else we are, and make sure that it broadcasted there. YouTube also. Wanted to make sure that you guys can see it and that the sound quality is okay. For those of you who are not familiar with how to listen to a podcast, number one, you can always write me and I can write you back and tell you how to subscribe, which is free. A lot of people in the beginning were thinking that in order to subscribe to a podcast that they had to pay money. No, you do not. So I can tell you how to do that. Or you can go to YouTube, youtube.com, type in Samantha Sayre, Sayre, and it will pop you up to my channel. And if you go to playlist, all of the podcast episodes are there under the correct podcast. So if you want to listen to West Virginia Overtime, then you just click on West Virginia Overtime's playlist, and it will show you all of the episodes there and all the different topics and what we talked about. I've tried to make it as easy as I can. Now, Wrestling Overtime and Paranormal Review. I'm talking to you right now. I know a lot, I won't say a lot, but probably half of you are on the West Coast or in Europe or Australia. A lot of the Wrestling Overtime is in Europe, and a lot of Paranormal Review is in Australia. So if you need me up on a different platform, I know a lot of times you guys use Daily Motion. I can get on there. I just need to know that you guys want me on there and that you'll watch what's going on. I don't want to be wasting Daily Motion's time if you guys aren't going to watch or if you don't need me over there. So don't care to get on Mixer or any of the other different sites. You just got to write me and let me know. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I will be letting you guys know times of when we will meet again. So I will be talking to you guys later. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I will talk